Welcome back to Church and State with Dave Pellowe. I'm talking with Martyn Iles from the Human Rights Law Alliance. Now, we're talking about equality and how the pursuit of equality has become this religious obsession of the progressive left, and it's actually achieving the opposite. It's creating division and inequality and special preferences for certain citizens, instead of that rule of law where we see Lady Justice with a blindfold on and just weighing the issues in the scales in her hand.
Yeah, look, the issue has become that inequality has become the only causal principle, just about, of some on the left, where they've reached a point where whatever injustice they see in the world, whatever problems...
Whether real or imaginary.
Whether real, that's true actually, whether real or imaginary, is the fault of inequality. And when inequality is one of your only causal principles, and you say, well, what causes inequality? Well, it's structural oppression. It's things like the family, right? Causes inequality because it's patriarchal. It locks people into certain roles. There's something about it. It's Western institutions. It's the way we do free markets. It's the way we do.
I actually read somewhere not too long ago, somebody was complaining about families because they gave kids without families and biological married parents an unfair disadvantage, because the kids who were raised in a traditional home with married biological parents had an unfair advantage over, I know what it was, it was reading. They were encouraging parents not to read bedtime stories to their kids because it gave them an unfair advantage over kids whose parents didn't read to them.
Correct. Now, you kind of wish that was a joke, but it actually wasn't.
But what a perfect example of the ludicrous pursuit of equality. We're actually going to punish and disadvantage and set back other children to try and create an equal outcome.
That's right. And so this is what happens when
you please go and live in North Korea?
This is all
I don't want to live in the
got.
country you're imagining.
Well, when this is all you've got to explain things, you've got to find inequality under every bush. Because the fact is that, inequality, that is the fact that people will have different circumstances, they'll have different opportunities, they'll have different outcomes in life. The fact of difference, the fact of people who are more attractive and less attractive, the fact of people who are richer and poorer, the fact of people who had stable married parents, and the fact of people who were fostered to 75 different homes. The fact this is always going to be with us. And if you're trying to solve the problem through one causal principle, you're going to have to double down and triple down and keep going until you find all the sources of inequality that you can possibly find. And you had Gillian Triggs made a quote, and I don't know if she was really thinking about what she was saying, but there's that quote that she's attributed to saying in a speech. Saying,
I'll let that one slide.
Unfortunately, she said, unfortunately, people can say what they want around the kitchen table at home. If you have this view, you believe that it is in fact in the home where these evil thoughts that create structural inequalities in our society begin, where you have to try and nip it in the bud.
Our Human Rights Commissioner, the person charged more than any other in Australia with protecting human rights, thinks it's unfortunate that people can say what they want at the kitchen table.
Well, this is where you're going to end up, isn't it? I mean, you've got to try and...
It's so remarkable.
And this is why the laws are getting more subjective and targeting speech and starting to talk about things like offence, because you need to be able to identify every bigot before they're allowed to become a bigot, to perpetuate these structural inequalities in our society. And, the Human Rights Commission has long sold out on this worldview. Most people aren't sold out on it. They're unconsciously perpetuating it and complying with it, exactly. And so...
The sheeple.
Actual equality in the sense of all things being equal is impossible.
Of course.
It's just an impossible mission. But what that means is, and we're seeing...
And so to try and solve, or to try and pursue an impossible goal actually causes problems.
Correct,
You're flying in the face of reality. You simply can't abolish inequality. You can reduce it, and we can search for justice, but there is just no perfect government, there is no perfect world, there is no perfect person. So the total and complete abolition of inequality is like trying to create utopia.
It's a utopian idea. That's exactly right. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and actually deal with unjust inequality. That's not what's being said at all. But the fact is that, you know, when you take equality too far, you wind up, because this is actually combined with another aspect of this worldview, this neo-Marxist sort of postmodern worldview, which is that, you know, this inequality, or every problem in the world, just about every problem in the world is the result of inequality. What causes the inequality? Structural oppression. So what do you have to do? You have to get rid of the oppression.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of oppression? You and I are going to say, well, let's talk about it, right? Oh, no, not the postmodern neo-Marxist, no way. Because, and whether consciously or not, a lot of people are, as Nietzsche said, I think, unconscious exponents of a dead philosopher. You know, they don't realise that this is fully in their mind. But it explains a lot, because you see that actually, under this worldview, dialogue is not a valid thing. Truth isn't real. It was Derrida, who's one of the chief proponents of this idea, along with guys like Foucault, who said the problem with the West is that it's logos-centric. You know, logos being this idea from John's Gospel 1, where there's originating truth, where there's spoken truth, the word, and the idea that truth can be found and that it can be reasoned through. I mean, that is completely invalid under a postmodern worldview, where now you actually have these marginalized tribes. You know, you have these highly intersectional, marginalized people. You know, the transgendered, you know, minority ethnic group or something like this. They're a tribe. So what do we do to deal with their inequalities? Do we talk about it? Try and ascertain the source of it? See if we can resolve it? Do we acknowledge that actually they're not all even a tribe? Some of them are probably CEOs of companies, but others might be really struggling. You know, do we go through this? No, we don't. Because if they engage in dialogue, all they are doing is engaging in the very tool that people like me use to oppress. So the only reason the West believes in truth, the only reason white heteronormative men like me believe in truth, is because it's our power play. And we use it to oppress people and keep people down.
Shame on you.
So we cannot, well, that's right. So I'm just into power. That's why I have these discussions. That's why it's all self-interest. I'm not capable of looking after someone from another tribe. I have no empathy. I'm not capable of building character because I haven't acknowledged that I'm the source of the problem.
So that's why people will ascribe someone who claims to value truth, objective truth, and justice and genuine equality of opportunity as just a hater. Because even if they don't process the thought with this level of detail, they just reject the concept of truth altogether. And so you asserting that someone else is not fitting the mathematical, statistical, median norm is actually a hater, because they've excluded somebody from truth. Everybody should have access to truth.
Well, the real, I guess the real issue is that once you remove truth, once you say it's not a thing, all you've got left is power. I mean, if you've got all these tribes, you know, you take an average discrimination statute and you see how people are all divided up into these tribes. If you take these tribes and you say, you know what, they're all they're all labouring under inequality. You know, you've got the white people and then you've got the minority races, and they're disempowered, and the white guys are empowered, and you've got all these groups that are against each other. Men are against women. You know, black people are against white people. You know, gay people are against straight people. So what do you do? As I said, dialogue, no way. Because if they do that, they're just going to perpetuate the inequality. What they have to do is wage war against the oppressor.
And you know what? It never ends.
Power struggle.
That kind of conflict never ends. Because once you get equality between men and women, black and white, gay and straight, well, then you've got to fight the war against inequality between short and skinny. Short and tall, fat and skinny.
Yep. Well, you know, if you look
left-handed and right-handed.
Look at this guy who got into trouble at Google.
If you're an employer, how dare you employ more right-handed people than left-handed people? That is clearly discriminatory.
Well, right, it never ends. And if you,
It never ends, of course not.
If you look at this guy who was recently sacked from Google, right, that story that went out because he questioned a memo about gender issues, and what he tells the story how someone in the organisation was accused of lookism because they wanted an image of an attractive person to go on an ad, and that was lookism. So, you need to now start really getting out of brass tacks after you've done away with, this top layer of inequality in this highly progressive organisation. Where do you go next?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about the fact that I'm tall? We're going to cut my legs off? What about the person who only needs 3 hours of sleep a night? They exist. Well, that's inequality.
Yep.
And so it never ends. But all you've got left is power struggle between these groups. You have no truth. You have no logic. And that's why, doing a full circle back to the cases I was talking about, that's why in our society you are seeing this general move away from dialogue, away from truth, away from reason and democracy, towards power plays, towards use of law to bludgeon people into silence, to intimidate people who have the wrong opinions. That subtle move, it happens amidst this soup of people who are a little bit postmodernist, a little bit this, a little bit that. But as the pendulum swings, we're going to see that more and more. Society is going to get uglier and uglier and uglier. And that's because we've only got power.
Yep.
That's all we've got.
When we come back, we're going to wrap it up maybe with a few more stories of what's going on, some wins and maybe some concerning losses. Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a look at this great video next and check out the website for even more interesting articles and episodes later.